First off, let me make a short introduction into our Power Platform. So we have 4 tools that are that we count as Power Platform. So the first one is Power BI, the second one is PowerApps, then we have Power Automate and Power Virtual Agents. Together with everything, what we can plug into the Power Platform is different data connectors. And we're talking about first party, so data from Microsoft services, as well as third party data connectors that we can use. But I'll show you a bit more during the PowerApps and Power Automate session part. Sorry. We have the AI Builder, which helps us to create some AI workflows. For example, we pretty much have the object detection and things like that ready as plug and play. So no need to train any of your own models or to really know much about AI in general. You can just use that and start using it in your apps. And then we have the Dataverse, which is Microsoft way of saying we have a lot of data from all different sources. Let's connect it. Let's simplify it. Let's make it standard, and then let's do something with it. First off is Power BI. We just load all of the animations so that we have everything together. So with Power BI, we are talking about connecting any data source to find some insights, to make some graphs and dashboards. And then when we have everything ready, share that with anyone. So this can be, we can share dashboards and reports either inside of our company. We can also publish it directly to our websites. For example, Slovenia, the country where I'm from, our national health agency, they used Power BI to have vaccination tracking data. And so they would just change the data or update the data in their models, and they would automatically appear on their website. Another interesting part is that everything is seamlessly integrated. So it's directly integrated with Power Automate, as I'll show you later. Teams, Dynamics 365 Azure, so all of those services, we can pull it together or distribute it on the other hand. Then, as you see here on the picture, another one is visualizations. So data isn't worth anything unless we can make some sense of it, right? So here we have actually 2 parts. So one is how to visualize the data and how to make it attractive, more interesting, and so on. The other one is also that as you pull in your data, the tool automatically starts suggesting. What could be some insight gathered, what calculations it could do, and in the end, it gives you some graphs that you can add into your dashboards. If you also have big data, it's possible through Azure Data Services to plug it into the Power BI. But maybe one of the features that I like the most about Power BI, what you see is what you get design experience, meaning that as you are putting things together, the way you see it, that's the same way as the end result will look like. Then moving on, we have Power Apps. The beauty here is, again, any platform support. So all of the major phone OSs are supported here. All you have to do is install the Power Apps app on your mobile phone, and then everything you created in Power Apps will be visible there. So it's an easy way to cover both iOS and Android, right? Because you just create one Power App and it works seamlessly. You also have access to the camera, GPS, penning, as well as the ability to, whatever you do, whatever app you do, you can also publish it on the web. You can make it as a web app, and that's all just a couple of clicks away. When you are creating apps, you can share them like documents. You literally have the share button, you type in the email, and you share it with your coworkers. Again, very nice integration with all sorts of our tools. And it comes with over 300 services to connect to the app. So whatever you're building, you won't usually want to or have to look into any API integrations or do any RESTful API calls, right? because the majority of the bigger services, there's already a built-in connector. So you just plug it in and start working with it. And like I mentioned before, easily to plug in some AI if needed. We have the same, what you see is what you get design experience. So I'll show you later what it looks like. But it's almost like PowerPoint, right? As you're putting things on the slide or on the screen in this case, you can see what the end result will be. Worth mentioning here that you can use PowerApps to interact with, for example, you can connect it with HoloLens, you can connect it with GPS and things like that. You can plug in Power Virtual Agents to have AI chatbots, and also whatever Power App you create, you can easily use it in Teams as a tab, for example, in one of the teams, or also you can just have it as a standalone app in your teams. So, for example, we at Microsoft internally, for example, we use Power Apps in all sorts of ways. One of the last ones that I've started using is for business expenses. So for the drive to work and back, we have a Power App, you type in the info, and then it gets calculated when you're at the end of the month when we are getting paid. Then we have Power Automate. The idea of Power Automate is that you can look at all of the business and other processes that you have, and then you can think about what steps are needed to do something instead of how to do it. So I like to say that this is as plugging Lego blocks together. So you just have one step, one block, one step, one block. And that's how you can model anything you want together. You have triggers and then actions, and you can either trigger it by yourself or have automated actions. For example, a trigger could be when a new email arrives from my boss, send me a notification on my phone, for example, or do something else with that. You can use it for simple integrations, like simple things that you want to do for yourself, or actual like end user or something that the whole organization can use. I've seen universities, for example, almost automating the whole sign-up process, as well as document management. So, for example, user submits a form, Power Automate takes the data, does something with the data, stores it somewhere, creates a PDF, sends the PDF over email, waits for a signature on the PDF, for example, and stores it into their systems. And something like that is easily doable in less than 1 hour to put everything together. There's also approvals, which I'm going to show a bit later. But basically, you can also create flows such as, for example, I want to post something on Teams. Before that, Dennis needs to approve it. When Dennis approves it, it automatically gets posted or something like that. But we'll work with with approvals a bit later. Everything you see on the screen is going to be happening in the automation. It works on all major platforms. You can share flows. For example, if I want to share one of the automations I did, I can just click and send it to Dennis or someone else. Integrated with all of our products. And again, there's over 300 connectors that you can plug in directly into the automation that you're doing. Again, with no necessary to do any API calls because everything just works. And finally, we have Power Virtual Agents. So you can see here on the screen what it looks like. So let me just highlight it a bit. So you have here on the left-hand side, you can see what it looks like. So what the end chatbot looks like. And then here on the right-hand side, you can actually configure what the bot will respond to, what the answers would be, and so on. What's interesting is that with Power Virtual Agents, you can also send the learning bots onto your Q&A page, or you can provide a document with questions and answers, and the bot will learn on what questions to expect, and how to answer them. And all of the Power Virtual Agents, you can again publish them to your website. We even had some projects in in Europe where they wanted to reduce the amount of people needed working in a call center, right, or in customer support. So what they did was they created a chatbot like this, plugged it into their website, and then the chatbot took over quite a lot of the workload that was necessary. Let's go to a demo. Let me start with PowerApps. So like I said, PowerApps is a tool to create low-code, no-code applications. So what I'm going to do is I could start with a blank app and just start developing everything by myself. Let's say in this case, since we don't have enough time, I want to start with an Excel file. So in my OneDrive, let me just drop in a table that I created. Just upload it really fast. And based on the table, I'm going to ask PowerApps to create an application. So what will happen is each column of this table will be used as a data point, and then it will generate an application that I can use that will add, search, or remove from this table. Okay, so it's like a database basically. So let's do this one and connect. I could also do the same if I have an SQL database, for example. I could just plug it in there. Another one that is interesting is if you want to use SharePoint, for example. Again, also very doable. Okay, and now here we have our designer, and that's why I mentioned that it kind of looks like PowerPoint. So let me maybe change the title here to my first app. Okay, app. Here we go. And maybe let's see what happens if I just run the application. So right here on the upper right side, I can run it. And right now, why is it showing blank? Because let's check what my input data looks like. Okay. So the file I uploaded has some empty lines. Let me remove that so that we can start from a clean slate. Or actually, even better, let me add some data here. So we have Jernej, then we have Dennis. Dennis is probably 25. Let's remove the rest of the lines. Okay, so we have 2 lines. Going back to the Power App, running it, refreshing the data, and it should start pulling in the new data I created. But let's say I want to add or create a new item. So we have age, for example, 30, first name, John C, check mark. Sorry, I need to close this file in order to unlock it for the app. Sorry about that. Let me relaunch the app. Okay, so now those are the 2 lines in my Excel file, right? And if I want to add something else, like this, and it added it to my Excel file. So maybe a use case where this could be used. I've seen some customer having an Excel file for asset management. So they would have all of their assets in an Excel file, and then just using something like this, they created a simple app. And now instead of giving the access to the Excel file to all of their employees, they just distributed the app to them, and then they used their phones, and they would do, for example, asset management in terms of at the end of the year, they would go room by room to make sure that everything is still there. Now, if I just show you what else I could add here. So, for example, I can add buttons, labels. Those are kind of regular, right? Text. Now, with text, I can also add pen input. And let me just show you what it looks like. Let me create some space here. And input pen. So I'm going to put it right here. And now if I launch it, I can type in. So we could potentially even use this for some sort of a delivery app where the user needs to sign whatever they've been delivered, right? And as you've seen natively, so this is on my computer. If I load this app on my phone, again, I can use the touch screen to start typing here. I could also, when it comes to inputs, I have pen input, drop-down, combo box, date picker, rating, toggle, and so on, even timers. Now, what I could also do here, for example, is create a very easy app that would be kind of a follow-up to the bootcamp that we have, and I could include the feedback form in here. Okay. Gallery, I can use this for loading stuff, for example, from my database. So what you're seeing here, so the list of items, right? These items, this is a gallery. And I can have a horizontal, vertical, blank, whatever. This is something that I can choose. I can also input a data table that also is a live one. Forms, I can create a form and input it here. So form would be, for me, it was automatically created because I used this creation process. But if not, I can create it myself, add all of the fields, and then connect it to the Excel file to have it synced with that. Of course, we can also have charts based on the data we have, some icons, quite a lot of icons. Custom, now custom components actually allow me to create something, some content piece, whatever it is, and I can program it by myself. For example, if my company would use some custom solution, I could prepare it to be a PowerApps building block, and then it would be visible here. I can also, for example, use the AI builder. So in this case, you see we have business card reader that's already built in, form processor, receipt processor, object detector, and text recognizer. So again, any of these I want to use, for example, text recognizer, I select it, it will open up a form, it will guide me through the process, and then I will have text recognizing capabilities in the Power App I'm just creating. So, and this is without me knowing a single thing about artificial intelligence, just clicking on AI Builder and selecting it. Okay, since this is loading now, let me cancel the adding. Maybe one more thing that I forgot to show earlier is if I go to powerapps.com and just sign in, I want to show you other options how I can start creating an app. So what we did is we went and we created here under create. We clicked on Excel and that was it, right? I could use SharePoint, an image, an SQL database, whatever I want, or I can click on more data sources and it will open up a separate screen. And here it will ask me about any connections I might have. So right now I only have the connection to my SharePoint and OneDrive, but let's say I want to create a new connection. And you can see I also have here Dropbox, Dynamics 365. I have Google Drive, Google Sheets, OneDrive, Salesforce, Zendesk, User Voice. So those are all connections I can use as a starting point to create my application from it. Okay, so I could use all of that to create an app, easy peasy. But let's say I want to return back. And let's see how else I can create applications. So right here, there's actually a start from templates section. So here, what I can do is I can look at already pre-built apps that I can start with and then build on my own. Let's see what happens if I select Office. There's a book a room, for example, application that I can use, a leave request, estimator, company pulse to see how people are feeling, out of office app. But let's go back and let's say I want the help desk. Or no, let's do one other. Let's do my expenses. So this is a phone app, not going to rename it. Let's see what my expenses app will do. Okay, so it asks me if I want to use it, I need to connect to SharePoint. So I'm going to allow it. Maybe while we wait, just to kind of return back and see one of the other apps I have here. Solution Health Hub, yeah, that's the one. So this is what it looks like. And again, I have a plus button here. I click, period, start date, end date, report. Oh, so now I'm creating a new expense report. Now, also, I can choose who my approver is. So let's select someone here. If there's any cost centers I need to select, I can also do it. And now as I create my expense report, I can start adding items. So for example, parking, business needs, cost 100. Hotel, business needs 250. Food, 100. And as you can see, I have now all of the expenses I added here. I also have a calculation on how much this would cost and all of the data I inputted. And then in the end, I can just use this to submit it. So if you paid attention, you saw that I didn't have to create any databases. I didn't have to do any application logic. I just basically took one of the pre-made templates and used that to work with. Okay, now maybe just to go out, just to show you kind of what this looks like. So right here on the left-hand side, I have different screens. So I have a screen called My Expenses, View Report, Filter Date, New Expense Confirm, and so on. Those are screens. So everything I see on my screen right now is, of course, a screen. Now, if I look at individual objects here, so I have filter date label, and this is this thing right here. Here. Then I have filter date icon, the icon here. Sort date icon, again, icon. Header, also a part of it. Now, as you can see here, each and every part is separately shown here on the left-hand side, and that makes it easy for me to prepare it. Now, if also I want to move something from one screen to another, I can just do the general design here, and then I can copy objects from one to another. Okay, so again, it allows me to have consistent design throughout apps, even without having to be a graphic designer or having to know anything about design. So that's why I'm really encouraging you to take a look at PowerApps, because it really makes it easy to develop new applications without having to be a programmer. As I can set, you can start from data. So for example, if you have an Excel file from all of the people who have applied to a university or your university, you can just take that, create an application out of it, and start using it. Okay. Now, let me also show the second part of my presentation, which is Power Automate. So again, let's go first, let's look at connectors. So we're going to look at what can we connect Power Automate to. Okay. And as you can see, there's really a lot of connectors, but let's start with the most known ones. So we have everything from Microsoft pretty much. Then we have, for example, Gmail, we have Twitter, we have Google Drive, Todoist, YouTube. And so, for example, let's click YouTube and let's click on see documentation just to see what triggers and actions are available, okay? So looking at it here, I can check. So the triggers when my automation will be triggered if I use the YouTube connector, either when a new video matches a search, when a new video is uploaded by a channel, or when I upload a video. So let's say I want to do an automation that will scan our company YouTube account, and every time there's a video published on there, I will download it and store it somewhere on my OneDrive, for example. This is all possible by using this connector. Okay, and then what's interesting is that as you go to a connector, you will see immediately a bunch of suggestions. So here you have suggestions on how you can combine different services, but it all starts with something on YouTube in this case. Okay, so for example, when a YouTube video is posted, share it on Twitter, or send me a new push notification when the video is uploaded on YouTube. There's also this one. So analyze YouTube video descriptions with AI Builder and send it to team. Right, so it will make an analysis, send it to teams so that we can discuss about it. Also, I can use, for example, Medium, the blogging platform, to automatically write a new article when something is published on YouTube. So I'm just giving examples here for YouTube because it's the first one I got to. But again, I would really like to bring your attention here that Power Automate has hundreds, literally hundreds of connectors, and you can just connect pretty much everything together and make some automations. So you see, I'm still scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, and still haven't come to the end. Now let's see how it looks like, or what it looks like when I start doing something. Let me go under templates, and I'll select top picks to see what are some of the most interesting ones here. And for example, this is a good one. Start an approval when a file is added on SharePoint. Or for example, analyze email sentiment with AI Builder and send results to Teams. So what I can do is I can plug together our AI, Outlook, and Teams. And so when an email would arrive, the AI would analyze what the sentiment is like. So is it positive? Is it negative? And then it would forward it into Teams. But maybe one general one that I would suggest to anyone is this one. So save Office 365 email attachments to OneDrive for Business. Okay, so let's say I want to have a backup of all of the attachments I've ever gotten. So I'll just click on Save Office 365 attachments to OneDrive for Business. It will open up a new screen to add this automation. And so if I look at it here, first it shows right here, it shows which apps are working together. So the first square is what will trigger this automation, and the other square is what happens next. So in this case, the trigger is new email with attachment arrives. Down here, the only thing that I have here is it's showing me for all of the different applications that this automation will use, and it's checking if I have connection already built to the service, and I can also check what permissions does this automation need, or this connection need. Let's say I'm satisfied with what I see here, so I can just say create flow. So I give it one more 2 minutes, and here we are. So I have the description, I have the name of the flow. So first thing I want to do is I want to rename it. So let's click on edit. And let's see what I can do. Okay, so if I look at here, the first step is always the trigger. So in this case, the trigger is on new email. So when a new email arrives in my folder inbox, and under advanced settings, I have only with attachments. So meaning trigger this, or if trigger this whenever an email with attachment arrives into my inbox. And then I have an apply to each loop, which for those of you who have done any programming, you will probably be familiar with for loops, right? This is it. So for each attachment, do something. And so here I select the output from previous steps. So I select the attachment that was sent to me. The next step is create a file on OneDrive. And then there's also a condition here. And this condition is basically if the file was created, if the file was not created, or if there's any errors creating the file, then wait a bit, try again. If the file was created without any issues, never mind, let's finish the flow. And as you can see, it also makes it quite easy to do actual programming. So this is an if statement, right? If something is true or if not true. So I can do it very easily. And what I like about it is that it's very visual and it's very easy to use. So let's say I've built out this flow and I'm not sure whether or not everything is correct. So will this work or not? And I don't want to just turn it on and test it like in practice. I want to put it through a flow checker first. So here on the upper right side, I have flow checker. For now, it's showing 0 errors and 0 warnings. So if I would have any errors here already, it will show me warnings in the flow checker and I would get a notification here. But now everything seems to be okay. Let me test it. So I'll click on test. And for the first time I do it, I will select manually. So I will send an email to myself with an attachment to see if it works. Now for the second, third, fourth time, I can just replay the same action, meaning that I only have to manually send it to myself or someone else has to send it to me once. Then after that, I can just click automatically here and it saves every previous attempt of this flow and it will try to replay it. Meaning that when I make additional changes here into the flow, if I add additional steps and so on, I won't have to manually keep sending myself this email with attachments over and over. But let's say I'm confident that this is working. I'll just return back. And here I get back on the overview. So here's the overview of this flow. Now, again, I can see the connections and the permissions they require, but I also see the 28-day run history. So let's go back into one of the other flows I have. I think it's this one. All runs. Hold on. Let me find one. This one I think should have some history. Oh. Okay, what I'm trying to do is show you that there's actually a history showing you whether or not previous runs of the flow were successful or not. So for example, if I have this flow to save email attachments to OneDrive for Business, and I notice one day that for some reason the attachments haven't been saving, I can go back here. I can open the 20-day run history, and I can see when it stopped working, and I can even dig deeper into the actual steps to see which step of the flow didn't work, when the issue started persisting, So it's really handy because I can do a full analysis on what went wrong and how to fix it. So for example, if I show you something else here, for example, this is a good one. Send a welcome message to a new team member. So let's look at this one. So it will get triggered every time a new team member is added into a team. So for in my experience example, this is the team called Algebra. So next step is let's get this user's profile, and then let's post a so-called adaptive card into the team. Then let's mention the user, and then let's say, hey, welcome to the team, blah, blah. Now let's try this in action. Let me go into the team called Algebra. Now Teams. While teams are loading, maybe just to show you once more. So under templates, as you've seen, I have so many different ideas on what I can do to automate. So what I did previously is I would just go here under templates. I would look at it and then I would get some ideas on what I want to automate, what I want to optimize and so on. And as you see, there's really the endless supply of automations here. So it should be easy to find some inspiration. Okay, now let me find Algebra. And let me just check which channel I have it set to post in. When I have to turn it on first. Okay. Code checker, what's the issue? Okay, all good. Okay, save it. The flow is ready to go. Let's check, it's turned on. Okay, now let's see if I did everything correctly. I'm going to click on add to team. Just add a couple of people here. Okay. So if I set everything correctly now, I should be getting some notifications. So I'm just going to reopen this flow. Again, when a new member is added into Algebra, notifications will start to pop up here. Okay, while we wait for this and to not go over my time, so to sum up everything I was saying today is with the Power Platform, you can easily do very interactive data sets and dashboards. You can create chatbots. You can create applications without having to program a line of code. And also you can create business process automations, right? Completely easily, as you've seen here. So it's just like putting the blocks, putting the steps together. If you want to try it, if you decide to try it, go under templates, look at everything that's available under the templates. And at the same time, if you already have any ideas what you would like to check here, check under connectors to see what's possible with the software that you use. So there is licensing that is required to be able to use the Power Platform. But again, this is something that you feel free to reach out to us and we can talk more about how and what you need to do to get access to it.